of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, the day after Christmas, otherwise known as Boxing Day in the United Kingdom, or to many in the rest of Europe and parts of America, St. Stephen's Day. And of course, Boxing Day because all the boxes get returned. This is the big return day, or it was the big return day. I assume a lot of that's happening through UPS now. But the world changes and we do have to get used to it. Like 20 Christmases ago, I wouldn't be appearing here on online. And none of this was available. And now this is fast becoming the preferred medium for you to get your information. Podcasting, live casting, it turns into podcasting. I predict that within a year, it'll be clearly predominant. Right now, there are some studies that say it ekes out regular television. There are some that say not quite, and that the message isn't as consistent. It's all over the place, but it's getting there. So very interesting changes going on. We'll review that more as we get closer to New Year's and go through the awesome task of trying to come up with the biggest story. It'd be so hard this year, Ted, to figure out the biggest story. Dr. Maria, Ted, we even have Stephen and Mike working on it, and I've called on outside experts. Nobody can figure out what the biggest story this year is. Like, nothing happened this year. It's a really quiet year, very calm.
Quiet year. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'll see you later. I hope you work on it all day. I'll be traveling. I'll see what it inspires me. Well, Pope Francis gave his Christmas message, and his Christmas message was hope, and also a Christmas message of all wars should stop. So I think that's good. I agree with him on that. I'd like to give him a message. Stop supporting communism. Listen to Our Lady of Fatima, Pope. Our Lady of Fatima predicted when she appeared to I think there were a group of little kids there, not one. And she said to them that Russian atheistic communism would destroy us if we didn't pray and didn't return to God. Now, it could be that morphed into Chinese communism. But when you look at what's happened in our government over the last 4 years, but in many ways, we are a communist government. And in many ways, what you're watching in the Trump preparations for this massive job, probably bigger than any American president since Lincoln had to organize to fight the Civil War. People talk about, well, why is he doing so much beforehand? You got to know Trump. He will, every day he gets up, he knows he only has 4 years and he wants to deliver. Well, you're watching one of the most, for me at least, one of the most awesome scenes ever, which is the Christmas midnight mass. It is one of my, what do we call it? Bucket list things that I haven't done. I've been blessed to do so many things. I met 2 popes, Mother Teresa, been to the Vatican to visit, but this has always been this. There are 2, and there's one I won't be able to do, I don't think, unless we do a miracle. I wanted to go to Christmas midnight mass at the Vatican. I also wanted to go to Christmas midnight mass in Bethlehem, which is now impossible because it's in the hands of Islamic extremists who won't allow you to go there. Well, they do allow you to go there, but it's very dangerous, and the church is run down. in a terrible way. Originally, they took hostages, but nobody cared about that. So Pope, thank you for the message of peace. Wouldn't be bad if you had a really strong message against atheistic communism and stop cooperating with the Chinese and appointing bishops. Makes it a little hard to, I understand I got to listen to you on matters of faith and morals, but I don't have to on anything else. On anything else, you are a very misguided product of liberation theology. Today is also the second day of Hanukkah, or tonight is, and we have our candles all ready. I will not be able to light them now. Obviously, it wouldn't be right, and we are in a hotel, and to do a show, that's where our studio is, and I think they have a problem with it. How do you like that? But there you go. So that was last night. This is the candle that's used for lighting the others. So we lit that one last night. Now tonight we would light this blue one here, and we would put it right next to it as we fill in the 8 days of Hanukkah. So we will light this tonight, and then when we're in control, when we get back to our studio, we'll have them all lit, and we want to wish all of our co-believers in the one supreme God who created us all, the Jewish people, and the ones for whom we are enormously grateful for the religion we have, which we wouldn't have if it weren't for you and the teachings of the rabbis. And we follow many of those teachings. After all, we do have the Old Testament. You obviously know it better in many cases because you study it so much in the shul. But you understand how important the Old Testament is to us. And I think you understand over the years how much the Orthodox and evangelical, the stronger, more traditional Christians, how much they love Israel. That's probably your biggest support comes from those of us who see Christmas as another indication of how Israel is the home of the Jewish people. I mean, this all happened with Jesus 2,000 years ago. He was a Jew. He died a Jew. And so did St. Peter and St. Paul. I mean, they just thought were doing another version. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. And we'll be talking about it all throughout until we get to the very, very joyous New Year, which this year is going to be very, very joyous. So today, some Democrat, Tiddlywink, was criticizing Trump, somebody rather neutral, not a right wing, not like a MAGA person like me or Steve or any others, any others you would think of, said it's really weird. I mean, Trump is the president. The president does and says nothing. Let's remember, Trump in the last 2 days has announced that he believes that we should take Panama, Greenland, and of course the Canada thing is more of a aspiration, but he mentioned it. And at the same time, he was involved in getting the whole authorization of the prior spending done, so we could not have a breakdown at Christmas. You can see him very actively putting together his programs. His people are all over the place. A little gets, but I can tell you that he very much wants to hit the ground running, and for him, that's a real thing. Democrats say that, and they hit the ground, and then nothing happens. Because they're lazy and they're not good managers. He's super energetic, and he does operate on Trump time. So I think on day one, you're going to see a mass effect on the border. So let's talk about the three expansion things. First of all, he's criticized because the guy said, well, maybe Biden isn't concentrating on anything important, but what's Trump doing? These are like daydreams. Canada, Panama, come on. Greenland. Hey, stupid Democrat, do you realize he's already gotten something for Panama? When he announced Panama 3 days ago, the president of Panama, who would otherwise be an ally, he's a right-wing guy, but in a highly corrupt country. Not the last one, the one before I think is in prison. But bribes all over the place. Does it affect the canal? I can't tell you that. The Canal Corporation purports to be separate. I was only there for an analysis of street crime, which is high, not corruption crime. I just can go on my instincts. I don't think it's that separate from Panama. But in any event, they can't seem to get the which ended up with a great delay in the canal that cost us a fortune and everybody else. So they need a much more substantial government or fund behind them if this thing is going to make it through the 21st century. And they are now charging exorbitant amounts because the lake was inadequate to supply their needs for a couple of months, and it backed everything up. Second, they're very proudly saying they're opening the second canal in 2026. They were opening the second canal. Gosh, I was there like in 2014. And they were opening it like in 2018. Maybe they should put Trump in charge. Maybe the president of Panama, who is president, I think it's President Molina. I think he should be like their Koch, and he should say, Donald Trump, can you get it done in a year instead of 2 years? What do you think the president would say? And what do you think he would do? That one, I think Koch said, can you get it done in 12 months? He got it done in 7. And then Koch got offended because he wanted it named after him. And that led to some extent for his political support of me. So I was a beneficiary of that. So just to give you the background, in 77, we entered into, Trump says that the agreement with Iran was the worst in the world. I tend to agree with this. This could have been the second worst. The canal, we had a major operating control over. After all, we built it, and we defended it, and we protected it, and we put a tremendous amount of money into it even after we built it. And okay, Panama won it. Jimmy Carter made a really good deal. You know how much Panama paid for it? That's zero. In other words, in our largesse, we gave it away without the slightest consideration, forget the money, of the national security concern there, without the slightest ability, because they're Democrats, to intellectually, look into the future and to say, in a world that is hostile, in a world in which the hostilities 50 years from now can be even different than the ones we know, keeping that canal open becomes a strategic advantage or disadvantage. And since we built it, and since it's in our hemisphere, and since they're a tiny little country that can easily be taken over, we better maintain control of that damn thing. But Jimmy Carter gave it away. Ronald Reagan got elected president on that issue, not that issue, but on many issues like that, on a weak president. And then, of course, the treaty was done before he came into office. Now, this Democrat really, made it like I'm stupid to get back to Panama Canal. Here's something you don't know. And of course, this is our specialty, isn't it? We tell you the things that the censorship media keeps out. There are 5 locks or 5 different ways of going through the canal. That's going to double pretty soon. You would think America ran those, right? Do you know who runs more than any other country? Would you like to guess? China. China runs the 2 main ones. We run one, and then there are 2 other countries. So China runs more of it than we do. What are we doing? Letting China in our hemisphere. How stupid is that? That happened under the communist-trained Obama. We didn't oppose it. We didn't tell them no. We didn't tell them if you bring the Chinese, we'll go pull them out and send them back to China. We had every right to do that because they're enemies of ours. We don't need them controlling a canal. Now it gets worse than that. It gets much worse than that. China got our ally, the country we built. I mean, it was part of Colombia. They'd be part of Colombia if it wasn't for the United States. Panama recognized Red China as the true China and double-crossed Taiwan. So when you hear Trump talking about this, will you please realize that when they make fun of him for being frivolous, it's because they're stupid and he's smart. You know, he started saying about the 25% tariff, Canada, Mexico. Mexico has already stopped people coming in. Already. They're shaking in Mexico. Canada has already made all kinds of offers. They'll stop anybody so we don't take them over. And Panama has just organized more police to stop people coming through the Darien Gap. And although they had tried under Biden, because Biden wanted to look good, and they did reduce some of the people coming through the Darien Gap, he claims that they didn't do good enough. This is all trying to talk Trump out of, Mr. Trump, we didn't do well enough. We're going to, and now that I cut them off completely. The Darien Gap is the only way to go from South America to Central America and then to North America by land. But it is treacherous. And you really would be best advised to go through with a really professional guide. And of course, the smugglers do that. So they've been bringing $250 a month through there. People dying in the gap, in the Darien Gap. But then they get through to Costa Rica, and then they're on their way up to Mexico. Mexico lets them in. Then they go up to the north of Mexico, and they get under the control of the cartels. So you can see all the points at which we can stop it. And Panama is the first one. And this idea of taking over Panama, first of all, it would be great. And second, if it's used as leverage to get them to kick the Chinese out, yeah. And someone said, we'd go to war for that. What happened to the Monroe Doctrine? What the hell do we have China right below us there, controlling one of the two major waterway access points in the world? That's, around the world from them. They would blow us out of there in a second if we did that. We should go control the straits between from Taiwan and China. Yeah, we want a lane for us. This is what Democrats don't do. They either don't challenge communism because of the way they were taught by Marxist professors, or they're too lazy, or they're too stupid, or they fail to disagree with each other. But these recommendations that he's making, please realize he's got about an 8 fallback position here of the leverage this can be. And he's working smarter than the people who cover him. And the people who are covering him are completely unwilling to try to do some analysis of what he's doing, which, I mean, on Panama would be really easy. Just go check about what Panama did when it double-crossed Taiwan and went with China. And what the hell does that mean? And China's controlling 2 out of 5 of the passageways. Of course, the other thing, as Trump is already making deals helping the United States, making Biden look good, slowing down Mexico, slowing down Canada, now slowing down people going into the Darien Gap. This guy Biden put 150,000 pardons out there to people I'm sure that deserved it, but also to people that should never be pardoned or commuted, people who killed little children, pedophilia is not curable. So when these guys go after another 12-year-old, they should sue the Bidens. The family should sue the Bidens for the cost of treatment to put the kid back together again. I mean, a lot of people should sue the Bidens, like I am, for the damage they've done to us. He also let out, of course, he let out Chinese spies. I'm sure that was part of the $21 million deal, or $31 million deal, however you calculate it. And he got 40 people death sentenced. He did not commute 3. And this gives you an idea of what a lying, dishonorable, sneaky, slimy politician he is. They all have major political reasons. One of them is Dylan Roof, who during the Obama administration killed 9 at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church. I mean, that guy, I'm not arguing to commute it. I'm arguing to execute him. But that's a sop to the black community, because if he wasn't executed, the white man for killing all those blacks, he'd have a lot of trouble. There's no other reason not to do it. They say it's an act of terrorism. I think it's a funny definition of terrorism, but in any event, it's a horrible act and he deserves to be executed. Don't get me wrong. But so did half of those people that he let off. How about the ones killing the little babies? And then he let off Robert Bowers, who killed people at the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh. He killed 11 people. Of course he deserves to be executed. But so did half of the others. And why was he let off? Because there'd be a terrible reaction of the Jewish community against Joe Biden. And finally, he better not go to Boston if he let off the Boston Marathon Zanayev. If he lets him off, forget it. All political, horrible thing to do. And he pretends he did it because he's a Catholic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In favor of killing little babies. And the Pope overlooks that. I mean, you are a enthusiastic supporter of last day abortion, which some of your people merge over into a little grace period afterwards, where if the baby is born and the mother is unconscious and can't make a decision, she should be given a chance to rethink it. There have been several in your party who have said that. The most prominently, the former governor of Virginia, which we have a tape recording of, even though your vice presidential candidate denied it. And he said she have a grace period. And then your candidate this time for vice president, Tampon Tim, actually had 4 or 5 babies like that died. And he reported them to the federal government. Then he stopped reporting. But they have a very, very squishy thing where if the baby is born, abortion didn't work. They used to have a statute that said you take all care to keep the child alive. Now you just make the kid comfortable, which means you take the little baby. You take the little baby and you put it on, and it just seems like they all die. No wonder we're in such a moral abyss, huh? Well, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to go take a look at that Russian plane crash and what's behind it, and sort of catch up on Ukraine and on Israel, on the 2 wars that didn't exist the last time that Donald Trump was president and that he's now inherited.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal, 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
It's the necklace and the bracelet.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and here I am back. I know the background is a little foggy. We've been working on that all week, and we just can't get them to get us a television that works like the one that we do. But I hope you can see we have a Christmas tree and a Santa Claus. I mean, we're very, very big on Christmas, the whole group of us. So Merry Christmas from Ted and from Dr. Maria and from Stephen, who helped us this time. Rob was here yesterday, and he said Merry Christmas. And Mike, the savior of my watch here. I do not own this watch, so don't come and rip it off my wrist. Wilkie Farr and Mike Gottlieb, former attorney for Hunter Biden and Burisma, who's now representing the people who want to take away everything I own, even though the judgment hasn't been affirmed on appeal. They're going to have a hearing on Friday for me, or deposition for me on Friday. You know what it's about? Whether they can have my Yankee rings, which I gave to my son Andrew, and they also want to challenge my Florida homestead, which is a matter of record. You can go look at it. I mean, I get to decide where my permanent residence is, not them. And I did it, and Florida accepted it, and I have a driver's license, and I voted here. Why we're having a hearing on it is because the judge in this case, a Democrat, although appointed by Trump, a Democrat coming from the two Democratic senators, has not ruled in my favor on anything. He's now, because we criticized him, he allowed them to issue ridiculous requests for discovery, including one that asked for every single message. Every single contact I had in the last 5 years with any lawyer, doctor, or financial advisor. Doctor? Like I don't have a doctor-patient privilege. Kind of like Trump didn't have an attorney-client privilege. How about attorney? Now, also consider the fact that during that period of time, I practiced law privately. A lot of attorneys I'm in contact with my clients. And then for one client, I was in contact with probably 500 lawyers, because a lot of them won't represent him, including I couldn't get anybody to represent me in the contempt hearing in Washington with the judge who put more January 6 people in jail than anyone else. This is a nightmare. This is the worst desecration of justice in the history of the United States, where our courts, the ones being utilized for the Trump persecutions, appear to be like tribunals in a dictatorial country. Well, Russia has a very, very suspicious plane crash on their hands, and this is a plane that was. This is a plane that it is reported that Russia attacked the plane. Russia has not responded by saying yay or nay. And they seem pretty comfortable to do this. I mean, they seem pretty comfortable in that they're not very, very strongly denying it, which is indicative of the fact that they probably did. But it looks like the plane crash happened because the plane heading to Russia had to alter its route. Here's where the lying starts. They like to say because of weather, probably because of Russian drone attacks. And then the Russians shot it down. Now, since this is an Azerbaijan plane, and Azerbaijan is a very strong friend of Putin, I would say this sounds like a mistake. This doesn't sound like a hit unless we find there's somebody on that plane that they wanted to take out. It wouldn't at all stop them to take out friends if they could get an enemy. These are, after all, the descendants of virulently atheistic communists who defend murder as a right of theirs. The Chinese are maniacal about murder. They've murdered more people than any peoples on earth, 100 million. Also, Putin used Christmas Day as the day to bomb the hell out of my favorite city in Ukraine, Kharkiv, and several others. And he used ballistic missiles to do it. He doesn't need to use ballistic missiles. They could almost walk the missiles into Kharkiv. It's 20 miles away from the Russian border. And Kharkiv annoys the hell out of him because he can't conquer it. And it used to be his friend, and he acted like such an animal. In 14, they fought against him, and so far they have defeated the grand, big Russian army. If you look at the map, they can't get Kharkiv. So now they claim they took out all of its electrical power, both there and in an adjacent area. This is all in the eastern portion of Russia, but in the eastern portion of Russia that's resisting them. And that portion of Russia, that portion of Ukraine, used to be pro-Russian. If you just think of Ukraine as eastern part, which is closer to the Russian border and right on the Russian border, when Ukraine was a free country, they tended to support the pro-Russian Ukrainian candidate. The western part of Russia, which means it goes up against Poland, right, tends to be much more Western-oriented, much more allied with the Western Europe, United States, and it tends to be more Ukrainian nationalistic. Putin has thrown that all up because the parts of Eastern Russia that resisted him have now turned very pro-Russian, Ukrainian nationalistic, and he is really doing the job on them. Now, why did he attack on Christmas Day? You would say, this is the second time he did it. I think the other one was on Christmas Eve. Because this gets into the long-term nature of this animosity. The Ukrainian Orthodox Church, for generations, practiced the religion, if not under the actual jurisdiction of the Russian Orthodox Church and the Russian Patriarch. They practiced exactly the same religion. And then you'd have a certain number of Ukrainian Orthodox that recognized the Patriarch in Moscow as their Pope, more or less. And you had some that didn't. And you also, it gets very complicated. You also have a breakaway Orthodox Church, always had, that didn't recognize the Russian guy and ran their own Orthodox Church. And then you had the Eastern Rite Roman Catholic Church, which was exactly like the Ukrainian Church, except it believed in the Pope. And then you had the normal Roman Catholic Church, then you had the Protestants. So it's a very complicated country, religiously. So 2 years ago, I believe it was, last year was the first Christmas, the Ukrainian Orthodox, who used to be under the Russians, declared independence and decided to use the Latin calendar for Easter, for Christmas. So Christmas comes on the 25th. In Russia, Christmas is on the 7th. And believe me, Putin is angry about that because it creates Ukrainians have always been very religious people, whether they're any one of those Orthodox. You start having them break away from the domination of the Patriarch. And the Patriarch, well, if I can criticize my own Pope, I can tell you that the Patriarch is a pawn of a maniacal murderer, which makes him one hell of a patriarch. I don't know what he's a patriarch of. But in any event, that attack was religiously inspired. but religious meaning nationalistic. It's in Eastern European countries and Orthodox countries, nationalism is very much attached to the church. It's the Russian Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, the Bulgarian Orthodox Church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. It's the reason that Hitler had them on the list for extermination, like he did the Jews, because they were too nationalistic and it would have been hard to make them members of the Third Reich. So that attack has deep seeds of history, which if you study it, you start to learn what this war is about. It's much more than just what seems to be on the surface. And I think Putin is doing what I know people say, oh, it could be hard to negotiate. Just the opposite. Putin's getting ready for a negotiation. And for an effective, maniacal, murdering leader, this is the way to get ready for it. Do as much damage as possible, put them on the defensive as much as possible, and take as much additional territory, because that'd be easy to give back. Also, a Russian cargo ship was sunk, and that was off Spain, and that remains to be determined. The Russians, of course, say the ship was going from Spain, not much cargo, to Vladivostok, and the question is, was it an act of terror, or did they get into trouble? And right now, I think it's anybody's guess. But it isn't anybody's guess with regard to the Azerbaijan Airlines plane that was shot down, and it was shot down by the Russians, but probably accidentally, because unless there's an underlying reason here that we don't know about, they're not going to be attacking Azerbaijan. It's one of their allies, so to speak, if they have allies. The situation in the Middle East, where we have another war going on, is Israel and the Houthis are now going at it. It's hard to even count the number of return fires here. I think there was, in the last 2 days, there's been a mutual. There was an attempt to hit Tel Aviv. There was an attempt to hit other parts of Israel by the Houthis. Israel then did a very major bombing of Yemen to take out their capacity, which is a real gift to the world, because they affect shipping mightily and make it enormously expensive. Talk about the Panama Canal. It's they've done something like 150 attacks on ships from all parts of the world heading to the Suez Canal, and that has a massive impact on the economies of the countries that are bringing things through there. That's happening. Yemen is right below Saudi Arabia, and Yemen is flying all the way up to Israel and bombing them, or sending missiles all the way up to Israel and bombing them. Israel is doing exactly the same thing, but as you can imagine, the Israelis are a lot more effective. So maybe over a period of time, they have decimated Hamas. They have dealt a pretty tough blow to Hezbollah, such that the whole Syrian thing happened as a result of that. Now, I mean, Iran's got only one of those left, and that's the Houthis. They take them out, Iran could be sitting there all by itself. We'll see what happens. Perfect time to take them out. Has to be his plan. Syria now is under the leadership of formerly Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, who has gone back to his original name of Ahmed al-Sharak. And he's asking for time to make it into a lawful democracy. Or is he asking for time so he can undermine and make it into the same kind of despotic regime it was under Assad, except this will be a Sunni version rather than a Shia version? His whole history has been as a murdering terrorist, for which he is recognized by the United States, other nations, and even by the UN. So unless he very quickly delivers some very, very clear indications that he means what he says and stops this, it's going to take a lot of time. I mean, until he does, we should just treat him as if he's a terrorist until he proves it to us. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order
No long diatribe about.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you on America's Mayor Live. And let's go through a couple of items again, that you wouldn't hear elsewhere. I think the Chinese influence in Panama is one you're not going to hear anywhere. China, and I don't think we knew this the way we should. And we have to thank Trump for opening up the door on China, the lid on China, and we have to thank all the people like Gordon Chang and Epoch Times, and that really focus on China and explain to us how bad it really is. It's worse than you think, and therefore China's involvement in the Panama Canal is a matter of tremendous concern, and they have real control of two parts of it, which doesn't mean, and they have a real close relationship. They have a real close relationship with the government of Panama. Now, it's a right-wing government, but Panama is well known as being a haven of corruption. So if China can pump lots of money into there, the Panama Canal is going to be run by China. That's a hell of a thing. How we built it, we gave it away for nothing. And now it's going to be used by our enemy. I don't think Trump will let that happen. And I guess he didn't want to point that out right away so it doesn't become an issue between us and China before it has to. But you should know that. Nobody else will tell you. When I say nobody else, only us people who believe in freedom of speech, which are people you know and can name, and certainly not the major media will tell you that. U.S. Steel is becoming quite an interesting thing because the owner of U.S. Steel, a Japanese company, wants to buy U.S. Steel. By all accounts, it would be financially a great deal. It would help U.S. Steel survive, and it would create more jobs. On the other hand, it would be a classic sale of an American icon to a foreign country where down the road, you might imagine, it would really hurt the long-term economy of the United States and those regions. So even if you can count more jobs right now, the history has been, and particularly for places like Pennsylvania, like Michigan, places affected by this, that short-term look good, long-term, they're not working there. Another reason why Trump won, even going back to 2016, is you've got a lot of families there with people that lost their jobs because of Democratic deals like this, and they remember it. You and I might not remember it because it didn't put our father out of work, but they remember it. And now they're in their middle age, and they remember a very hard time when Daddy lost his job because the car company moved out, and it's going to be a much better deal, and the car's going to be cheaper, and whatever. Now it is true that sometimes, as a result of sending jobs overseas, it's cheaper. But then you don't calculate the cost to the economy on the other side, the loss of job. Does the person ever get a job? And then the cost of the transition, the effect on the attendant industries. So if you have a steel mill, all around that steel mill, You got plenty of jobs and businesses that are built up. So Trump opposes it. The interesting thing is Biden opposes it. So the organization known as CFIUS, that's the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which has to approve foreign deals like this, did, the usual useless, cowardly thing. They punted and voted like 3-3 or whatever it was and gave it to Biden. They don't want to be on the hook for it. Biden has made a firm statement that he'd oppose it. So he's going to have to decide it before Trump comes in. Odds are he might not. Although the union wants it rejected, so we'll have to see. Elon Musk, support him. He wants to urge you not to donate to Wikipedia. I'd like to urge you to do the same. Wikipedia is a dishonest, rotten, left-wing diatribe. It will take somebody. It'll leave out, all that stuff about China. It'll leave out anything. It won't tell you that there was an allegation by a woman that Joe Biden sexually assaulted her. But if it's a Republican, it'll tell you that there was an allegation that some Republicans said something nasty. It is so biased, I can't describe it. It is about me for sure, the things that I do know, but it is about everybody I know. And it's a useless research tool because it's done by people with an agenda, and then it's edited, and the selections are made by people with an agenda. And now if you go on the Wikipedia page, they ask you for a donation. Now, of course, I've not made one. And I consider anybody that made one to be a big supporter of destroying free speech and getting involved in woke speech. And you can only say what the Democrats agree with, and then they will emphasize that in Wikipedia, and they will de-emphasize anything else, and they also will demonize. If I say they demonize Trump, I would be understating it. They really don't. The government shouldn't put him out of business. Government shouldn't put First Amendment publications out of business. But people shouldn't. If people don't want it. That's the whole idea. The whole idea is it should be private. Let them decide. If they don't want this thing, because they think it's so dishonest and unfair, they have a right to do away with it. They don't have the money, don't give them the money. Why would you want to fund the destruction of free speech in your country, or the destruction of our country as we know it, so we can move closer to communism? That's what Wikipedia is in service of. They do a lot of other things with a similar bias towards, mutilation for children without the permission of their parents, significant bias toward killing children, and against even somewhat, modestly restrictive laws on abortion, like the last 3 months. We told you about the aliens being held up in Panama within a day's notice because of Trump's leverage that he used over them that nobody seems to recognize. They write both stories in the article, and they don't think that the guy's cracking down more now because Trump said, "I'm going to take you over." Canada and Mexico had similar reactions. It's like we have a president before we have a president, right? And New York crime is really getting out of control. The burning of that woman on the subway. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. We had a Christmas Eve stabbing in Grand Central Station. The subways are safe, says Mayor Adams. And Governor No Brain. 2 years in a row, stabbings on the subway in exactly the same place. This time, 2 people were stabbed. Imana Chiara Pizarro, who is just a 26-year-old girl. This guy was coming off the subway. He got into an altercation with a 42-year-old man. He punched him and stabbed him, sent him off to the hospital. And then as he was coming up, He got into another altercation with a 28-year-old female from Brooklyn, and he stabbed her. And he was yelling, "What's your problem? I'm going to kill you all." Yes, Daniel Penny wasn't around, and the cops weren't around. Rather weird. They usually do cover that Grand Central area. And this was, and the woman, Imana Chiara Pizarro, works at that notorious Roosevelt shelter. So this is just 2 blocks away. That area has become ruined as a result of Adams putting the aliens in a high-class New York hotel, because when you don't have bidding on a contract, you get no information about it, and you can give it to your buddies, your friends. You can make it exorbitant and very expensive. And remember, as soon as Adams started this, bringing and encouraging people to come to New York, there was a big complaint that all these contracts for the aliens were much higher than the usual homeless. It doesn't take more to take care of the aliens and the homeless, unless there's you want a little excess cash around for kickbacks, or a lot of excess cash for kickbacks. Now, just to show you that I know how to put facts together, you won't hear this anywhere else either. Kathy Hochul just vetoed a bill that would require you to put out information on a no-bid contract. Now, if she did that, she wouldn't have picked up a $300,000 campaign contribution from a company that she gave $300,000 to, more than they were paying in California, and they kicked it back as a contribution. So she had the goal to actually veto the transparency bill that would say, even if it is an emergency contract, you got to put out details on it so that we can discover it. There's a good article by Richie Torres, who wants to be the next governor, Democrat, in the Post today or yesterday about that. And this guy who did it is another one with prior arrests. Another example of either criminals going wild or our inability to deal with the mentally ill. Haven't we been saying it too long? You know, I wrote my first article about homelessness and the mentally ill in, I think, 2015 or 2016, that de Blasio was degrading the system. And the Post makes this point today, or the Wall Street Journal, I don't remember, that these Democrats who say, you know, take in all the homeless, have all the homeless you want, let them stay on the street. Isn't that great? Take in all of the migrants you want, let them stay on the street. They actually hate people. If you love people, you wouldn't let them stay on the street. You'd engage with them. I did that, and I came pretty close to fixing homelessness in a way that people think of as perfect. It wasn't perfect. It had a little flaw here and there. Compared to this, it was nirvana. But I confronted every homeless person for their good. Of course, they didn't believe it because I'm a Republican. Somehow they think I'm some kind of a horrible person, which is why they want to put me in jail for the rest of my life. But I did it because I love them, because I'm a Christian. I analyze social policy from the point of view of a relative. Now, I never had a brother. Maybe one of the reasons I use this. I say to myself, and I remember talking to my staff about this when it came up, because I inherited nothing like now, but for then a crisis in homelessness, a crisis. The numbers were outrageous. I got it down to almost nothing. And I said to my staff, when we were thinking it over, how would you treat your brother if your mother calls you and said, your brother Frank is on the street, he lost his job, he doesn't have any money, he can't pay his rent, they threw him out, and he's now on the street right near Grand Central Station. Would you go there and give him $50 so he could buy another bottle of liquor? Would you go there and give him a blanket for for staying on the street? Or would you pick them up and would you take them for treatment? Either take them home, but definitely take them for treatment. You wouldn't leave them there and enable them because every day they stay on the street to get worse. And if they didn't begin as a paranoid schizophrenic, they're going to end that way. So I wrote an article saying, if you see a lot of homeless people, you know you have a mayor who hates people. Boy, does that fit. I see I wrote it in the Post. I don't know if the Post or Wall Street Journal made this point today, but geez, I made it 10 years ago before I could see it starting. So how about we stop saying we got to do more with the mentally ill and we do it? The facilities are there. The beds are there. If they'd like my help, I could show them. I offered that to Hochul and Cuomo when they thought they had no beds for the COVID people. So Cuomo stuffed them in the nursing homes so they could die, and he could take care of his biggest campaign contributors. So Richie Torres, you should take a look at. He's making some good points about corruption in New York. Festivus we talked about yesterday, but we're going to show you a few more interesting ones on Festivus tomorrow. But the one that gets me the most are the separating the two rats into the rats that are happy and the rats that are unhappy, and which one goes for the cocaine more. I can understand. I don't even know if you need to study for that. I would imagine the people who are depressed go for the cocaine more. I mean, what are we going to learn from that? There's a new pill for sleep apnea that might be a miracle. Let's hope, because that big machine is a pain in the neck for lots of people. And all the companies that were never going to donate to Republicans again because of the January 6th hoax, where they bought hook, line, and sinker all the Democratic vicious fraud, like they did Russian collusion and the hard drive being Russian. They're all making big donations of money to Trump for the inauguration. All of them, every single one of them. They've gotten over it. Good, because we have come really close to proving. We certainly have put enough on the table where circumstantial evidence proves it was a put-up job. By the time we're finished, we will prove it beyond any adventure of a doubt. So enjoy your Christmas presents today. I hope you didn't have to return too many. I hope you really got things you wanted and like. I say to those of you who got coal, work on being better next year. Santa doesn't do that because he's mean. Santa does that because he's trying to straighten you out. Okay? Which will lead us to some thoughts about New Year's in the future days. So we'll be back with you at 8 tomorrow night. The show on Frank's speech resumes on Monday. They gave everybody the week off for Christmas, which is really, really nice. I took yesterday off and used the Christmas podcast I liked the most. Did a little introduction, and I really, I miss talking to you. So, again, let's pray for the people at war. Let's pray for our country. We always remember Israel and Ukraine and Iran especially. And we remember our country and our hostages. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock on X. And we'll have plenty for you. God bless America.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time? And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows, only time? We gotta
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common